Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we do watercolor tutorials. I teach a new one every week, and this week we are doing Forest Bear.
Rawr.
That's a good one. I was hoping you'd growl.
Thank you.
That is my husband Michael. He's running the cameras, and he'll be showing me where to look, and I talk to him.
Hello.
And this is our son Arlo. And he's sleeping. Can you see him at all? Probably not.
You just, the top of his head, that's it.
And he's about 3 months old now. Can you believe that? Okay, anyway, sorry, I'm getting all sentimental. Okay, so in this project, our forest bear, we are going to do this in 5 steps. So our very first step, we are going to put in the sky. Our second step, we are going to put in the trunks. So just the lines. The third step, we're gonna do like the black mountains. Fourth step, we're gonna do the actual trees, so like the leaves on the trees. And the fifth step is the stars. We are using 2 paintbrushes for this project, our Let's Make Art round 6 and round 2. These are great brushes. They're pretty similar to the Princeton Heritage series. They do have a little bit of a finer tip, but...
And they're prettier.
And they're prettier. But anyways, whatever brushes you guys have, if you have your leftover fan brush from our May subscription box, that would be a good way to use this since we're doing trees. But really you guys can use whatever you have. We are using 4 colors. So our very first color is sea blue, which is one of my favorite colors. Our second color is violet.
Violet, what are you doing, Violet? We just watched Willy Wonka.
Oh yeah,
the
that's
kids.
right. Is your mic on?
Uh-huh.
Okay. People like to hear you when you speak.
I'll work on my voice.
And then our third color is black. And our fourth color is bleed proof white. I'm not going to do a swatch. It's right here. Bleed proof white. If you have the subscription box, the fun thing about this one is if you don't like a blue-purple sky, you can switch your violet out for the lemon yellow and do a blue-green sky, which would be also really pretty. So just a thought. Just throwing that out there.
Or if you're emo, just go pure black.
Just all black.
Black sky.
Black. Okay. We are going to do our outline and then do we do our warm-up? Warm-up, outline, oath, paint?
Warm up, outline, oath, party.
Yes, warm-up, outline, oath, party. Whoop.
Whoop.
Whoop. Warm-up, outline,
Oath,
oath, paint,
party.
party.
How about whoop whoop?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop.
It's like woof from The Office. All right, we've lost everyone.
I'm sorry.
Everyone's gone.
You can skip through us talking.
All right.
Okay, so for the warm-ups, I'm going to go over a few different things. One of them is wet on wet, and this is one of my favorite techniques. So I want you guys to grab your round 6, grab some water, hit it off the side of the cup so it's not dripping, and do just a wet area. And while it's still wet, I want you to pick up a color and just drop it into the water and just kind of see how it moves. And you can pick up another color and also drop that in.
Why don't you tell the lovely people why you don't do washes with the 2?
Okay, so for me the main difference between paintbrushes and which one to use is it's all about like how detailed I want to be and how fast I want to be. If I'm painting a large area, I would want to use my larger brush because then it will just...
Because it holds more water and paint.
Yeah, because it's bigger. It's
Right.
a bigger brush, so you'll be able to paint that area faster. Usually round 2 I save for details, I save for small areas or thin lines or things like that. And it's so funny because I remember in my first art class I took, I was painting using acrylic paint and I was using a tiny little brush. And the guy sitting next to me was just like, why are you using that tiny brush? He's like, it's gonna take you like a year to paint that background. And he like pulled out my big brush. He's like, use this brush. And I was like, oh.
I was hoping he'd just whack you in the nose with it. It's bad.
So that's how I kind of know which brushes to use when. Does that mean it's impossible to use the round 2 to do washes with or to fill areas with? No, it's not impossible. It just is going to take you longer. So this technique, this wet on wet, this is how we're gonna do our sky. So we're gonna work fairly quickly with our sky. We're gonna use water, we're gonna drop in color, we're gonna get messy. Really just, this is it, okay? The next thing I wanna show you guys is, we're gonna practice thin lines because we're gonna do trunks. So I want you to move to your round 2 brush, get it damp. So drop it in the water and hit it off the side of the cup. Grab a little bit of paint and try for thin lines. 2 things you want to remember when you're trying to do thin lines. 1, you want your brush to be a vertical hold, so straight up and down. And 2, you want light pressure.
Wow. So what are the name of those brushes? They're skinny like that, but they have really long bristles. Are they for line? Oh, it's 4 lines.
Yeah, so there's another kind of brush called a liner that are long and stay skinny. So the round kind of has a thicker base and a sharp tip, where liners tend to be thin the whole way. And those are really great. I think I've used the liner in the rabbit project for the whiskers.
I'm so impressed that you remembered that.
So just practice this. Now, usually I would say like move your shoulder instead of your wrist, but these trunks are pretty tiny. So if you plant your wrist and you just do thin lines up with your wrist, you'll be fine. It's when you do long lines that you want to not plant your wrist, because then you're limited to the reach of your wrist. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is values. This is something we go over every time. The lightness and darkness of a color is the value. So like looking at this, when it's pure black, that's a dark value. And when you see these like lighter gray trees, that's a lighter value. And how we communicate depth and distance or form in a painting is by values. And especially with landscapes, when you're trying to do anything that has a landscape, you want to make sure that you switch up your values to communicate that space. And that technique is called atmospheric perspective. And so basically what that means is that if something is farther away in the painting, like a tree line that's far away, it's going to be a lighter value and not super contrasty. Okay? And then as you work your way towards the painting and you're painting your foreground, that you want to have darker values or have it be super contrasty. And with those things next to each other, it's going to push them apart visually, so then you have depth. So we're kind of doing that here with having lighter trees in the background and then lighter value trees and then dark value trees in the foreground. That is going to separate it and give us a little bit of depth. You don't have to do that. If you're okay with them all being in the same depth in space and they're all the same value, it's your painting. You could totally do that. I'm just showing you the technique behind it so you can utilize that information for when maybe you want to paint something on your own. Okay, and then we're just going to go over trees really quick. So if you have your fan brush from last month, you can use that, or I used my round 2 for these trees. So I have my trunks. I'm going to grab some black. And you're just going to do, I do dashes, dots, little hash. I switch up the mark making that I make on my trees, because what happens is sometimes we do the same mark making over and over, and it's going to make our tree look pretty flat, because trees aren't perfectly patterned or like have that same rhythm in nature. Most of the time they're kind of weird. So I like to just mess with it. And so if that means you gotta, like, on the side of your paper, just practice different marks that you can make with your brush, do that.
There is a specific branch of botany, just reminded me, that is concerned with the mathematics of where limbs come out, with patterning in flowers.
Really?
Isn't that nuts? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I know that there are some plants that are actually really patterned.
Even the chaotic ones in general have a pattern.
Really?
Yeah, it's really nuts.
That's fascinating.
Shout out to my botany teacher, Eric Wada. I hope you watch this, brother.
Oh. So I just want you guys, like, do a couple trunks on your warm-up. And when you're making trees, I just keep 3 things in mind. One of them is I like to keep a triangle shape for the most part. So that means as I work my way down, my dashes and my marks are going to be a little bit bigger, because if you look at trees, usually their oldest branches are at the bottom, and then as you get the newer branches, so that's why they're a little bit smaller. So I keep the triangle shape, and then if it's helpful for you and you need to remember to put in like branches, you can do little like branches that get bigger on the way down, and then do your marks off of those, kind of as like a little reminder thing. I also tend to overlap my marks more in the trunk area than on the sides, because if you think of a tree, they have branches coming to the side of them and also coming out at you. So they're not just standing straight to the side and the branches only go sideways. They come out, which means those leaves or needles or whatever are going to overlap more in the front of it, in the middle of it, because it's the trunk and the leaves. Yeah, yes, makes sense? Okay, so just kind of play. Maybe you want to do more like, yeah. I don't know what I was going to say there. I couldn't think of anything, so I just stopped talking.
Answer whatever you want. If you want to do whatever, do it.
Okay, so you guys play with it. Have fun. Experiment. I kind of like this rough texture brush that's happening right now. It looks really nice.
That's really beautiful.
It's really pretty.
I've painted a couple tree projects with you, and I never feel good about my trees, but I remember the oath.
Thanks, honey.
What?
Because you just said, I painted a few trees with you, but I never feel good about them.
No, I'm saying, like, I know what I want them to look like. They just never come out of my hands. Why are you laughing? I don't get it.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. It's
okay. It was just like, oh, great, here's a great testimonial of my husband learning how to paint trees for me. Oh. And then it was just like, can't do it.
Well, I always sit next to you, and your trees are little pretty trees, and mine end up in these, like, monstrosities.
But that's right, we have to remember our oath.
Don't compare.
Don't compare. And I think it's time to do is it time to do our oath?
Well, probably now, yeah. Wait, party first? Do we party first?
Whoop.
Whoop.
Warm up. Oath, outline. Outline, oath. Outline first.
Whoop.
Okay, so we have an outline here. If you have a subscription or a kit, it should be included. If not, you can still get this outline on our website. If you have trouble locating it, you can email our customer happiness team. They would love to help you. That's hello@letsmakeart.com. I tape my outline to my paper so then I don't lose, it doesn't like move around while I'm tracing. I take my graphite paper and do dark shiny side down, and then you can use a pen or a pencil to trace. This one, if your lines are hard, it's not a huge deal because what we're tracing, especially the tree lines, we're painting in black. So like this one, I'm not going to stress too much to do light pressure. But it is helpful if you have like a marker to trace, because a colored marker, because then you'll know where you've already traced a line.
I think it's funny we say this every time and you never have, we have to bring a marker.
I know, I always look hoping that one will magically appear right next to me. Hasn't happened. Oh shoot, I lost my spot. Okay, there we go.
We are in the back of an art store, so we could solve this problem.
I guess I could just walk about 10 feet and grab a marker. Nah.
Nah. I said it before, but I like to think that you just do tracings on hard mode.
What do you mean?
Because you do it with a pencil. You're like challenging yourself, you know, you don't need a...
Oh yeah, because a marker makes a softer line because it's a softer tip.
And it's easy to see where you've already marked.
Yes.
You just like to do it the hard way.
Yes.
Hard mode. We're getting
Level
there.
difficulty in video games. Wow, I was going to say something and then I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say?
Looks like you have a little patch of blonde chest hair.
Does it?
Because of his head.
I wish I was wearing like a V-neck shirt.
Boy is sleeping hard. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, that's what I was going to say. I try and make my lines darker when I'm teaching so you guys can see them on the camera. But you guys try and make them as light at home as you can. But it just takes practice. Also, graphite paper is reusable. I know we send a new one every month because we don't know if it's like your first month with us or your 6th month. So we send one every month so you have all the materials you need. And don't use that, if you've been with us a few months, don't like throw away your graphite paper after one use. It actually gets better with age. It doesn't become as sensitive.
I was just thinking it'd be funny to have like a fine wine and cheese store with like aged wine, aged cheese, and it also just specializes in like aged graphite paper.
They're like, are you tired of using brand new graphite paper?
This is a 5-year graphite paper.
I've been using this graphite paper for 5 years.
$1,000.
I just start selling my used graphite paper. Okay, now we're gonna do our oath and then we'll start painting. So raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my
I
work.
promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Fun! Party! I love that his head bobbled.
All right, the whoop is finished.
Okay, now let's get to painting. So our first step, we're gonna do our sky. Also, for you guys watching for the first time, if you don't need to hear the warm-ups and you've been with us a bit, you can always skip the beginning part till we start painting.
I usually chat Sarah up during the outline to pass time too, so you can skip that if you'd like.
You can. You guys can pause, you can slow it down. Our voices would sound weird, but you can do it. I'm gonna take a drink really quick.
What's your beverage? Vodka coffee? Knew it.
No. But look at this cute llama mug. Desiree from my work got this for me for Christmas.
And the best part is like the plug up on top. It's like a rubbery cap. That's the
Yeah.
best.
Yes. It's a mug, and then it's also a travel mug.
Cool.
Found at TJ Maxx. I don't know. I think that's where she said it.
Also, Desiree, if you're watching, you're the best.
Desiree, you're the best. Okay. So sky, I'm using my round 6. If you have a larger brush, like a round 8 or a round 10, use that too. You know what I mean? Use what you got. Okay, I'm getting it wet. I'm gonna lay down water first. And I'm just doing it in sections because if I were to paint this whole thing with water and then try and drop it in, most of it will probably be dry by the time I get the water in. I'm gonna go, okay, so my blue, okay. This sea blue, it has like a greenish tint to it. It's a warm blue. If you want it to be more of like a regular blue, you just grab a tiny bit of violet and mix it in there, and that will kind of change it back to a regular blue. If you want more of a purple blue, just add more violet into there. So you guys have kind of a range here of the colors that you can use in this project, which I think is fun. And then if you want to darken it up, grab some black. So when I do night skies or galaxies like this, I try and make sure that the edge of the painting is darker and then it gets lighter as I work my way down. So I usually start with like black mixed in with my blue, and then I'll add color from there. I don't want to do straight black though. If I do straight black, then it will kind of look gray compared to the color that I'm putting out around it. And then I'm just going to use water to spread the color that I laid down. And you can also do water drops. I love these projects because this is where you guys truly get to just play around and be like, I'm gonna do a water drop here. Maybe I'll throw in some sea salt. Maybe I'll do this. And it's gonna look cool because like once you add stars, people are gonna tell that it's a sky. So there's a section, getting an area wet. I'm gonna drop in some color there. Maybe I'll do more of a, and everybody's is gonna look different from each other because this is kind of like free play, you know what I mean? Our color mixing is going to be different. Where we're placing our colors, where we're placing our water drops, it's all gonna be different from each other, which I find fantastic. And once I drop something in, I usually just let it move on its own and try not to like control it so much, because I did a Q&A last week where I talked about like overworking And a lot of that is because like with watercolor, that happens because you make a decision and then you change your mind. And then you keep like adding paint, doing layers and layers and layers till you lose all your values. And we don't want to do that in watercolor. I'm going to add more of this just pure sea blue so I can have like this like really pretty lighter blue.
Those colors are so good.
Aren't they just, mwah, just beautiful? Also, I am not working my way around the trees. I'm just making sure I'm painting to the tree line using a light value, because our trees are going to be like black, different values of black. So they're going to be darker than this light blue that I'm putting there no matter what. So that way I don't have to like painstakingly paint around every trees. I'll just do like to the tree line and then paint the trees on top after it's dry. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Gosh, that little bright purple right there is so pretty. Now let's say you're painting this and you're dropping in color and you're getting like super vibrant areas where you don't necessarily want there to be super vibrant area. Like let's say you're painting this and you don't love that purple there. You can do a wash on top of it to tone it down. So I'm going to grab a little bit of blue and a little bit of black. And I'm just going to kind of move it around. So then it's not like, bam, purple. But maybe you like that. Like I'm going to do some purple in there and kind of just see what happens. Again, just make sure that as you work your way down, you're going from dark value to light value. And also, just so you guys know, watercolor has a tendency, like it usually is really dark when it's wet, and then the values just tend to lighten up a bit as it dries. That is very standard to watercolor. So that if you're getting frustrated with that, just know that that is just how watercolor is. And that's also kind of why the difference between oil and acrylic, besides their binder of how to make paint, but also acrylic has that same thing where it lightens up as it dries, where oil usually will stay that same value as when you're painting it. And I hope this is right, because I'm actually not an oil painter, but I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly sure this is correct, that with oil the values stay dark even as it dries. And with watercolor and acrylic, they tend to lighten up as they dry. Like you can see here, this lightened up a bit because it's dry compared to my wet areas. And that's okay, that's the nature of the paint. Gosh, I'm getting some just beautiful colors. And this is kind of where you can be like, do I want more purple over here or maybe more blue? I'm gonna do a little bit more blue there. Maybe you want to do some like water drops for some blooms. If you have some salt, it might be fun to just throw it in there just to see what it does. If you think your purple is too vibrant, again, you can mix a little bit of black in there to tone it down if you want to do like some dark purple areas.
Have you ever heard of any other cool, I don't know, effectors like salt? Like if you put sugar on it, will it do anything?
I don't think sugar does anything. I've heard that alcohol sometimes does stuff.
Just like accidental spill, just
It's
all over
like
the page.
you just take it, you take a drink, put a little on there, take a drink. That's how you have to do it.
Pour it out for the homies.
Or saran wrap creates really cool textures.
Saran wrap. This is exactly what I wanted. You're nailing them.
Thank you. And different like paper towels, sometimes you can like do funky things with paper towels, but I've never tried alcohol personally. I'm not entirely sure what it does, but it it'd be kind of cool to play with.
You used to paint with coffee.
I used to paint, yes. I would do coffee paintings for people, and they were so beautiful. Coffee has this gorgeous warmth to it that I just, like naturally that
Sepia.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. I really love painting with coffee. Okay, now we let it dry. We let it dry. Oh,
What?
do you know what we could do? Okay, because I'm going to be honest, you guys. I am impatient. I don't like having to sit and wait for something to dry because, like, I'm here to paint. You know what I'm saying? So I'll move on to a different area. Now, in this steps, I said to do the trunks first, and I'm pretty sure that's how I painted this, but it's too wet that if I try and put trunks there, they're just going to bleed out. But I can start putting the black area on my feet because it's not going to touch the wet, and that's something I can do right now while it's drying. So I'm going to do that. Okay?
That sounds great.
Oh, wait, hold on, pass these out.
Uh-oh. Crisis.
He's good. Gosh, he's the best baby in the whole world. Okay. So I'm just going to do water first. Not a lot of water. If there's a puddle on your paper when you're putting water down, too much water. And if you're struggling with picking up the right amount of water, then I would suggest always using your paper towel. Because you can see here, I use my paper towel a lot to like absorb any extra water on my brush. So I'm just going to paint the black areas up to the tree line. And I kept it pretty dark throughout. I am going a little bit lighter near the trees just because if this area is super wet and I touch it with black, the black will move everywhere in my sky. So I'm just being a little bit careful. And then once I see that the area is dry, then I can paint it black. Should we put him in his car seat maybe? Okay, baby's in his car seat. He's asleep. We can keep on painting. Okay, so I have my black. And I'm kind of going up to the tree line, making sure that the area is dry up to the tree line. It should be dry by now. It's been a while. Or at least dry enough to where the black won't spread everywhere.
I like your drool spot on your shirt from the baby.
Thank you.
That's nice.
Courtesy of Arlo.
He gets the drooling from you. You're a sleep drooler too.
I am. I really am. Is that just from like sleeping with your mouth open?
I don't know. I think everyone does it.
Yeah?
I don't know. I think everyone probably drools.
People of YouTube, if you know what causes that. I always thought it was because I slept with my mouth open and not through my nose.
I mean, probably.
But I don't know. Also, you guys, if you don't want to do like pure black for this, you can do a different color. Just make sure that the values are darker than your sky, pretty much. So you could do like navy, maybe you want to do a dark green. I usually just try and keep in mind the values, because if the values aren't darker, it's not going to seem like this tree line is in front and the sky is behind it. It's going to seem like it's one thing. Okay, and now is where I can put in tree trunks. So I'm going to switch to my two. And actually, if you do the lighter value ones first, and I didn't like separate the lighter value ones from the darker value ones when I did my outline, because you guys can choose that. It doesn't really matter. And I could just take water and pull color from the black that I put down already. and start putting in tree trunks. So I'm kind of just looking at where the trees are that are in my outline and just doing a straight line up and down on those. And I, for the first time, included an outline for the trees because I know that some of you guys get frustrated with the shape of your trees. So I wanted you to see like what, if you were to take away, if you were to just do the outline, the different shapes of them. So that's why I put that in there. You don't have to follow it exactly if you don't want to. And also you can add trees, which I probably will do actually. I'll probably throw some here and there. The biggest thing you have to remember is that, again, our brain is going to want to create even spaced trees. And you can see that I kind of did that here. So put trees in between these and kind of like mess up the perfect spacing in between. And this is just a little bloom. I think I must have dropped some water there. I kind of love it, so I'm going to leave it. And, okay, my wrist smeared this a little bit. So please know that that happens to everybody. And I think I could probably confidently just make this foot bigger and it wouldn't look that weird. So that's what I'm gonna do.
I think that's a paw.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm afraid of bears.
Well, I think that's a fair thing to be afraid of. When we were painting the panda, we asked people about like if pandas are like
mean.
Yeah, and they said they can be sometimes
If you take their food.
It's like me.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny is I think during I said like I'm not mad about it, it's something, and someone commented, I think it was Marcy, she was just like, what do you get mad at? And I'm like, when somebody takes my food without asking, I get mad.
Yeah.
Like if I have food in the refrigerator and you just help yourself without asking if you can have some of my food, I get mad at that. Because I really care about my food. Okay, moving on. Okay, so I have some of my tree trunks. Again, these are general guidelines for you. You can add more, you can have less. Maybe you don't like trees. Maybe your mountaintop is smooth. You get to make those decisions because this is your painting. But I have my tree trunks in, and I'm gonna do my lighter value ones first. So
if you don't like trees, you should talk to somebody. That's an irrational thing to not like.
Hey, are deciduous trees, are those leaves?
Deciduous.
Deciduous. And then, what's the other one? The one with needles. Coniferous, with needles. Is that right?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, I'm really proud of myself for just saying that.
That is a wonderful...
I am learning.
I'm going to get actual definitions for you here.
Okay. So in the meantime, let's actually paint and do our painting tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit of water and a little bit of paint. So it's a light gray, if you can see my mixing tray here. And Michael, can you make sure we're on the close-up for these trees?
Yes. Deciduous just means that it loses its leaves every year.
Oh, it's not about the leaf type?
In general, gymnosperm trees are the ones with needles.
Oh.
Like conifers and pines.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I think pine might be a conifer, I don't know. But deciduous means that it, like, in the fall, it turns a color and sheds its leaves.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm using my light gray here and just doing some of these trees. Again, there's really no rhyme or reason to which ones are the lighter. You just want to make sure you have a mix if you're trying to get that depth in a painting. Gosh dang it, I did it again.
We should just have my dear friend Eric come and be the plant fact checker.
I would love that.
Eric, deciduous, please.
Eric is so funny.
He is the best.
Didn't he was a botanist, right? He graduated with a degree in botany.
Uh-huh. We went the whole path and then branched at the end.
He is so sweet. I painted a peony one time, and I kind of just made up the leaves. And he messaged me. He was just like, hey. He's like, just so you know, this painting is beautiful. Those leaves are not correct. Peonies do not have those kind of leaves.
We go camping every year, and he brings a bug kill jar and a flower pressing kit to the campsite every year.
Because he collects the...
We collect the bugs, and he presses the flowers of the area.
That's beautiful.
It's fun.
I love pressed flowers.
They're not for prettiness. They're for factual purpose.
Oh, well, you could do both.
No.
No. Science only. Okay, so I have some of my lighter value trees, and now I'm going to put in my darker value trees. So I'm picking up more paint, so it's a darker value, less water. And again, you can follow the outlines that I already have kind of on there. But even with the outlines, I would still suggest mess with your mark making, because you basically don't want to fill in the entire tree. You'll notice here that there are white spaces in between my little branches and leaves. It's not like a block of just black. So that's why I would still suggest doing the dashes and the dots and kind of just following the silhouettes as guidelines. And if you need to make some trunks darker, you can just go over them. And when I get to the very top of the tree, I usually just do a couple dashes, like little tiny dots, like pinprints on the tip of my paintbrush.
A lot of your landscapes remind me of Northern California.
Well, it's where I'm from.
Do you do that on purpose, or is it just what comes out, or what?
I think it's just what I'm used to seeing. I mean, like, if you look at my work now, I'm kind of doing more like greenery and fields and big sky paintings, because that's what Missouri is like. It's green, it's big sky, it's so beautiful. Right now, spring in Missouri is like the most gorgeous. I've never seen such color.
I don't know if there's a better season in a place anywhere.
Yeah, it's just, maybe the tulip fields in like...
Or Hawaii anytime.
Maybe Hawaii any time of the year. But anyways, I think you people just have a tendency to kind of paint what they're used to seeing. And that's also why sometimes like going someplace new, whether it's a different country or city or just landscape area, can be really inspiring, because it's giving you new information and new things to look at, and different way of seeing things. And actually, fun fact, exactly 1 year ago today, my husband and I were taking a plane to Paris for our 10-year anniversary, and we went all over Europe. And now we're here.
Missouri.
In Missouri. But it's real beautiful.
I loved Europe. We went Paris, Barcelona, Porto, Portugal, and then San Miguel Island, and then back to Lisbon, and then home.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And actually, I think if you guys look at our past boxes, the September watercolor box last year was inspired by that trip. So I had some fun projects in there.
It was just all paintings of me.
It was just Michael
lounging in France,
laying
on the beach,
eating a croissant. No, that was me.
You didn't eat any croissants. You inhaled a bunch.
I inhaled. No, my last one though, I tried to savor. Okay, well actually my last one, I bought it at a little bakery before we went to the airport. And then I walked about 5 feet and I'm like, this can't be my last one. So I went right back in and bought 3 more for the plane ride. And I regret nothing. It was the best. So my friends, I'm just filling in my trees here. It's the same kind of steps that we've been doing, dashes, different marks, playing with different values, filling in my tree line. Again, it's not going to look exactly as the reference photo, because that's not our goal. We want you guys to explore. It does take a little bit of time to feel comfortable with like doing your own thing, which is why we do these tutorials with you guys. So then it's like, it can get you to a place where you're just like, you know, I kind of have an idea of what I'm doing, so I'm going to just do something else. And I love that. I hope you guys do that. Or maybe you don't want to because you're like, no, I like the projects you make. I'm just going to
No.
keep doing that. Do it. I'll make the projects for you. Sometimes I have a problem with my trees, my trunks being straight. So some of them are like lean a little bit. And I used to stress about that. And then I like looked out my window and I'm like, trees don't grow like perfectly straight up and down. They do have a little bit of curve to them sometimes, so. Okay.
So I have a request usually for the fan base, right?
Yes.
My request this time, and this is not going to turn into a thing, but I just thought of it. I want someone to paint the Republic of California flag with this bear on it.
Oh, that would be cool.
Or like change up the colors of the California flag too, make it like the nighttime California flag.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. All right, go.
Okay, now that like my tree line is kind of done, I'm gonna look at the areas. Like I really like this area. I like how concentrated it is. I like the different values. I feel like this area is looking a little too bare.
That was terrible.
I didn't mean to do that. Anyways, so you can take a break and just kind of step away from it for a second. And I think what's throwing me off about this area is the trees are pretty evenly spaced and they're all pretty similarly height. The height is all pretty similar. So I'm going to actually go in and put in some more light value trees. You can put in light value trees after you put in dark value trees. Just use a lighter color, black, and just add a couple little guys. And I'm going to do some taller ones to kind of mess up this line that I have going here where they're all the same size. Oh yeah, already I feel better about it. Put one over here maybe. And maybe you just have tiny little trees coming up just the tip. Okay.
It's looking too bare.
Okay. I feel good about my tree line. If you guys need to do another layer of black, you can. Like, I feel really good about the black here. This one kind of lightens up as it goes out to my trees, but I don't mind that actually. I'm gonna leave it.
Sweet.
Okay. Now we're just gonna do our stars, which means we're gonna splatter paint, which means we're gonna get real messy. So if you have something nice around you, move it. Also, you can do this with a toothbrush, like an old toothbrush. You get your toothbrush kind of moist, you put it in the white, and then you just like run your thumb across it and it will spray. I'm just gonna use my round 6. I got it wet, I'm picking up some bleed proof white. And then I'm gonna get a little bit wet again to make sure that it will actually splatter. And I'm gonna hit my paintbrush off my finger and paint will splatter. Now how wet your brush is, you'll get bigger drops. So my brush is just kind of damp, so I'm getting tiny ones. So if it's not coming off, dip it a couple of times, but still hit it off. And then, oh, I got that all in my black. Actually, maybe use your reference card to cover your black. Now, if it's too wet, sometimes you'll get really big splatters, which isn't always bad. It just kind of depends on how big you want your stars to be. And I like to mix it up. I like to have a lot of really thin ones and then also a few like bigger ones, because that's how we see stars in our sky, right? Some are farther away, so they're really tiny. Okay.
You should do like a big star for his eye.
I think I actually did that in the reference, yeah. So, okay, so if you want to do that, and sometimes I'll go in, I'm gonna switch to my 2 because it's a smaller tip. Make sure you rinse your brushes really good with the bleed proof white, okay? Because it's not like normal watercolor.
Also masking fluid.
Oh, masking fluid. Don't use your nice watercolor brushes with masking fluid. You can, but like so scary because if it dries in there, your brush is dead. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up some paint and you can do like bigger dots here and there. And then I kind of like to do a couple shooting stars. So I'll take my bigger ones and just kind of like smear the paint a little bit. And you can do that as many times as you want because this is your painting. Again, be aware of your, when you're doing these bigger dots, just be aware if you're making patterns or not.
This is one of my favorite projects you've done. I love this.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yes.
Oh, I just love it. Now, with this area that I speckled with white, I have noticed that if I try and paint over my bleed-proof white, it will still show up sometimes. So I just want to give you a heads up that if you were to paint over this area again, you might have to do a few layers. So I wonder if you could almost turn it into something else, where maybe it's like rocks and you connect some of them and it's kind of like the jagged edge of a mountain or something like that. So just, you know, be flexible with your painting, see what happens. And I think that's it. That's our painting. It's beautiful and fun, and everybody's is going to look so different. So I can't wait to see how yours turned out. You can tag us on Instagram at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. You can look up that hashtag and see what other people are painting if you're on Instagram. If you're on Facebook and you want to share your work, but you're kind of nervous, or maybe you want to see what other people are making, or you have questions or tips, we have a watercolor group just for you that's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. It's pretty big, so there's lots of varying skill level in there, but we believe in celebrating every stage. It's not a competition, and a lot of times skills just come with time. That's all it is. So we have some people who are 2 weeks painting, never have painted, painted for 20 years, painted for 2 years, maybe even like everywhere in between. And it's fun because we can still learn from each other. That's the whole point. It's just learning and having fun and playing and being brave.
Making life bearable.
That's good. That's good. And if you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. I don't think I need to say anything else. Thank you for painting with me, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.